Hey guys, Raya here. All year, my social feeds have been full of people making those chunky hand-knit blankets, and it just looks so fun and pretty that I decided I wanted to make one myself. Watch as I give it a try. I went to a few craft stores to check out the different options for chunky yarn. Hobby Lobby had some relatively cheap, but they were thinner and shorter than I wanted. Joann's had a thicker option, but it was a pretty chaotic pile, and I couldn't see all the colors I had decided on. Michael's had the same brand as Joann's, but it ended up having a better selection once I checked stock online. I also got a good coupon for the whole order, so it ended up pretty equivalent in price to the Hobby Lobby yarn. I got cream, light gray, and blue to match the winter colors I used to decorate for Christmas, as well as my general living room color scheme. I followed a tutorial online to figure out how to start the blanket. I tied a slip knot with a loop about 4 fingers wide. Then I pulled the source yarn up through the loop the same width as the first one. Then I pulled more source yarn up to make the same width in a third loop and kept doing the same thing. I wanted a queen-size blanket, and the tutorial I followed said that should be about 32 links long. I decided to just go for a while, not counting, but just doing a bunch of loops. And then I counted to 32 and took out the few extras I made. To start the first row of regular loops, I moved the source yarn to the other side of the table so that the yarn would feed from the correct direction. Then I pulled the source yarn up through the last chain loop and made sure the regular loop was about 2 fingers wide. Then I just followed the same pattern, pulling the source yarn up through in 2-inch loops. I made as many rows as I could with the full skein of cream yarn to start off. It turned out to be about 8 regular rows and that one initial chain row. Up until this point, I wasn't sure exactly how many rows a full skein of yarn would make, and so I wasn't sure about my pattern until I finished the first section of cream. I used scissors and a lighter to switch from the cream to gray. I cut both yarn ends to make a flat surface, then used the lighter to try to ignite the center. Once it was lit, I pressed the 2 ends together firmly and then rolled the connected spot to try to break up any hard bits. I pulled off the loose fuzz and tugged to make sure the 2 colors were solidly connected. Then I did a single row of the gray. At the end of that row, I used the same method and switched to the blue. Then I switched back to the gray. And then went back to the cream for a full skein. Once I did the initial row of cream and figured out how many rows each skein could do, I did the math and I knew I had enough of each color to make about 16 rows of blue and 24 rows of gray with 8 full sections of the cream. So I decided to use up all my yarn to make a huge blanket. So on the next color pattern, I decided to make it bigger, so I did 2 rows of each color. Then I did another skein of the cream. At this point, I did 3 rows of each color to balance the blanket since I was getting close to the halfway point. I did another skein of cream and then 4 rows of blue for the midpoint. After that, I just did everything the same in the opposite pattern. This was such a fun and easy craft. It was really quick to pick up. It was nice to have something to do with my hands while I watched a show. Once I finished the last 8 rows of cream, I watched the tutorial again to figure out how to finish the blanket. The idea is that you pull the first 2 loops through at the 4-finger width again, and then use the second loop to hook through the first one and bring it in the direction of the source yarn. And then make a 3rd loop to hook through the second one, and then follow that pattern all the way down the row. Then once I got to the end, I trimmed it and tied a knot around the last corner loop. Then I wove the loose tail back into the pattern and melted it on to connect it. I went back to the beginning slip knot and trimmed and connected it as well. And here's the finished product. This blanket is so big. This isn't folded in half. The thing is about 5 feet by 9 feet. I used almost all the yarn in the end. Here's what was left. I wasn't super consistent on the tightness of my weave. I was going for a loose knit overall to keep it breathable. But you can see in the middle it got a bit too loose. Oh well. I loved that it could fully wrap all the way around me like a burrito. It's so soft and cozy. I think everyone should make one of these. Thanks for watching.